Let's talk about back scabbards.
Hey folks, Matt Easton here, Scholar Gladiatoria. So let's talk a little bit about back scabbards. There is indeed a scabbard on my back, as you see here. Now this topic, some people would say it's been done to death. Some people would say it hasn't been done enough. Obviously, people like Shad have found solutions to wearing a sword on the back. And many people, perhaps even me in the long past actually, have sort of said this is not something you should do. Some people have gone as far as to say that it's impossible. Okay, so what's my position? Well, very briefly, my position is it's not impossible. Historically, very occasionally, swords were worn on backs, and other weapons were very occasionally, but it wasn't common. It is very common, however, if you look at movies and TV shows and stuff like that, you know, video games, this kind of stuff, role-playing games, to wear swords on backs because modern people think it looks cool. Do I think it looks cool? Not really, no. But some people do, and I accept that lots of people do think it looks cool. And I recently did a video rant about certain weapons appearing, levitating, hovering on the backs of characters that you're playing in Bannerlord and certain other games, okay? And the fact that having a pike or a spear hovering on your back while you're using a sword and shield is ludicrous, basically impossible, and it just looks stupid. Now, let's return to my earlier point that I just made. Now, before I go on, actually, I want you to go and have a look at this excellent video by Nate V. So link below. He's done a really good video showing how you can actually quite easily wear a sword on the back and draw it, and just with the caveat, well, go and watch his video, but with the caveat that it is worn on one side and drawn by the other arm. In the same way that if you're right-handed and drawing with your right hand, that you wear the scabbard sheath on your left-hand side, so that you're drawing across the body, so you get a longer draw length, essentially, to get the long blade out. But to return to my earlier point, I would never assert that this is not something that was ever done. As I said, we know that sometimes certain weapons were carried on the back, usually for transport or for some other logistical reason that meant that wearing the sword at your side wasn't practical. However, historically, across the world, across periods of history, swords have usually been worn at the hip. And yes, this comes with some disadvantages. Getting on and off horses, you can get it tangled up in your legs. Running around, the sword jangles everywhere, although you just kind of hold it in your hand and that prevents that problem. And there are arguably some advantages to having the sword on the back. But that being said, it wasn't done very much historically. Why might that be? Probably because on balance, the disadvantages of having a sword on your back outweigh the advantages, and that overall wearing a sword at your hip is more advantageous in most situations than wearing it on your back. But, so following Nate V, and do go and watch Nate V's video and go and subscribe to his channel, link below to there. Does his advice mean that I can pull this bastard sword? It's not a particularly long sword, but it is a hand and a half sword. Can I draw it from my back? Well, first of all, I will say, this isn't very comfortable for me to wear, okay? So I don't really like the way that this swings around, and it's not really preferential to me compared to wearing it at the hip. But anyway, that's me. And I would also say, if I wanted to wear, you know, I live in England, you may have heard that it rains sometimes, and if I was living in medieval England or medieval France or most other bits of medieval Europe or Japan or China or various other places, very often it's going to rain, the weather's going to be horrible. I'm going to want to put some sort of outer garment over my clothes to keep me dry and keep me warm, and I can't really do that very easily with one of these on my back, but whereas if I'm wearing it on my hip, then I can. Anyway, let's see, can I get this out of the scabbard? Well, first of all, if I need to quickly, if someone suddenly attacks me, okay, then for me, reaching down here and pulling out is easier and more natural. Certainly I've practiced it more, coming from a normal scabbard position. Getting over to there is not particularly easy, so you pretty much, especially as the thing will slide down, have to pull. You have to reach the belt to pull that up here first, okay? Then secondly, you need to get your hand right the way across your body and over your shoulder to here. And then you need to pull out, keeping that cross guard from clunking you in the side of the head, as Nate points out in his very good video, which I recommend you go and watch now. And yes, indeed, I can just about get it out. However, I don't find it very convenient or very quick. Now, I have to say, Nate has obviously practiced this. Can I get it back in? Yeah, just about. Couple of details. Nate very clearly has practiced this more than me, okay? So I've done lots of scabbard drawing, sword drawing from scabbards in conventional positions. I have not practiced this very much. I'm sure if I practiced a bit more, I would get a little bit better at it. Secondly, it's obvious that blade length plays a part, and we're going to look at me trying this with a shorter blade in a second. But also, as I say, practice plays a part, and also scabbard type plays a part. So it's very clear that Nate has a bendy leather scabbard, and I have a bendy leather scabbard here. I've deliberately chosen a scabbard similar to his for this. And indeed, with a bendy leather scabbard, what happens is as you draw the sword out, it enables the scabbard to kind of flop over your shoulder, okay, which assists. Now, most medieval scabbards weren't floppy leather. Floppy leather scabbards did come about in the era of rapiers, so in the 16th century, but by and large medieval scabbards were wood lined for various reasons, probably to protect the wearers and the other people around, because inside you've got a sharp steel blade and scabbards bash against things all the time. So it's probably partly to protect the blade, partly protect the people and the animals being hit by the scabbard, because if it was just leather and it's being hit by a large broad-bladed sword, like a Viking era sword, then at some point the scabbard leather would fall apart and get cut through perhaps, and the things being hit by it might get damaged, or the people or the animals. So indeed, if I follow Nate's advice, so I secure the strap here, or even better, pull it forward slightly and reach across my body. Indeed, I'm still struggling a bit. There we go. I can just about get it out. However, it's certainly, to me, not as easy, not as quick, as smooth, as fail-safe, or as intuitive as drawing from the hip. Right. Let's give this a try with a genuine medieval wood-lined scabbard and see how it works. So, full disclosure, this is not working out too great for me, largely because I haven't tried to draw it yet, largely because the suspension system that I have for my Landsknecht Emporium Messer, Langmesser, is not really suited to this position on my shoulder. And also, the fact that I've now got a wood-lined scabbard means that it's I don't know, it's just kind of hanging differently, I think. But anyway, let's give it a try. So first of all, it's in the same position over the shoulder. The strap's coming over this way, it's over there. Right, I can't easily get to it just with my hand here. So first of all, I have to get my hand to there and try and pull it slightly to the front. Now I can reach it and I can pull, and I can get it out, okay? And equally, I can get it back in. It's a bit too close to my face for comfort. This is quite sharp, this sword. But I can do it, yeah? I can do it. I don't think it's particularly comfortable or particularly convenient. I can get my hand to there, secure the scabbard, and get it out. This is a shorter blade, and indeed, the wooden scabbard doesn't seem to be a big issue. I thought that it would be, but it isn't really. Okay, so I think we can conclusively say, yes, indeed, with a longer blade, although up to a certain point, if the blade's too long, you notice I was struggling. This is, I think, a 34-inch blade, maybe? 34-inch blade. So that was about my maximum. If I had a 37-inch blade longsword, it would probably be a lot trickier to manage to do that. This is only about, I think, about 29-inch blade, something like that, 28. So this is obviously, it's hanging very weirdly now. It doesn't want to be there. This is obviously much more tricky for me to do because of this suspension system here. But with the shorter blade, I can do it. So we're not saying that historically it was never done, and we're certainly not saying that it can't be done. We're just saying that it was almost never done, and I personally don't find it very convenient and don't really find many advantages to having the sword on the back. Finally, I want to finish off with another form of wearing the sword, which was done historically in various places around the world. I know it was done in the Sudan with Scabbards. It was done in Southeast Asia with the da, as you can see here. That's what that loop is for wearing in exactly the same way. And it's something that's, it's a form of wearing the sword which is actually quite overlooked by games and movies and stuff like this for the most part. And that is to wear the sword very high up under the armpit. Now that has several advantages. First of all, it means you can run around and the sword doesn't get in the way at all. It's completely out of the way. It doesn't get tripped up. It doesn't get caught between your legs. You can hop on and off horses as you like. Not going to be a problem. You can literally sprint with it here, and you can easily tuck it up under your arm if you need to. You can climb. It's a great position. So we find it in Southeast Asia. We find it in probably other parts of Asia that I don't know about. You find it in Africa, and you do find it in Europe. You actually see it in some early medieval artwork of the sword very worn very high up under here. And it also has the advantage that if you want to put on something like a cloak or a coat or something else, you put it on here and your sword hilt might be sticking out there, a bit like Highlander, but your sword hilt might be sticking out to the front, but it's not really in the way. It's not going to get in the way of the cloak or the big coat or anything else. And it's super easy to draw relatively short blades. If you've got a long blade, it will be a problem. But if you've got most one-handed sword length blades, it's dead easy to get them in and out from that height. And this is far more tactical and far more comfortable and convenient to wear and run around and do physical activities with than either the normal hip wearing place of having a sword, or trying to stick the weapon on your back, which is going to get in the way of clothes. It's going to hit low hanging branches. If you bend forwards, it's going to fall out of the scabbard. All of these other problems with the back worn sword. So I would say if you don't like wearing a sword at your hip, instead of sticking it on your back and trying to go down the movie game, the video game or the movie route, instead have a little play with this. And it was absolutely 100% traditionally done with various types of swords, various periods around the world, and is super comfortable, super convenient, and leaves your hands, your hips, your legs, everything free. And you can easily get the sword out, and actually you clamp the scabbard in by your side as you do it. It means you don't even need to use this hand to hold that scabbard while you do it. You literally just put your arm down onto the scabbard and pull it out. It's super quick, super convenient. It's not going to fall out when you bend over or anything like this. And it's a super good way of wearing a sword. I'm surprised it wasn't even more popular historically than it was. Anyway, go and check out Nate's video, link below. Cheers for watching. I'm sure there will be more to say about this topic in the future, and I'll see you really soon again for another video on Scholar Gladiator channel. Give us a like and please subscribe if you haven't done already, and click that notification bell. Cheers for watching. See you soon. Thanks for watching. We've got extra videos on Patreon. Please give our Facebook a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Cheers, folks.